All the same. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Excited to kick off the week of interviews with Riggs Eckelberry. Riggs, I'm looking forward to connecting with you for a couple reasons. When I read your bio, the podcast, your booking agency that sent it over, said that you're revolutionizing water. And I'm always fascinated by water, the energy of water, just water in general. Our bodies are made up of so much of water. There's so much ocean. I'm just fascinated by water in general. And then you just had a really cool name to boot. So I thought, I got to have this guy on a live. So I want you to kind of share with everybody kind of what you do, but I'll introduce you just, Riggs Eckelberry, you're president and CEO of OriginClear, creating a global online marketplace to revolutionize water and the water treatment industry. So, before we kind of jump into you, your business, all of this, just explain to people what revolutionizing water means in a time where everybody's trying to innovate and look at things with new lenses.
John, that's really good because I came out of the .com, high tech. I love disruption. I believe technology will save the world as long as people are sane. But that's a separate topic.
By the way, I started my first internet company when I was 23 and sold it when I was 25 in the .com boom. So we kind of have probably a similar path, which we'll talk about later.
Similar arc, although I'm ancient compared to you, but nonetheless, we've had a great time. What's happening is we have a ripple effect going on from the high tech world out to brick and mortar, and we can do the same thing. Here's the amazing thing about water. Have you noticed that we're still hearing about Flint, Michigan 6 years later? Come on.
I'm in Michigan. I'm in Detroit.
Okay, so here's why. Water has a hard time changing. Water does not change easily for a variety of reasons. And one of the big things that people don't know is that central infrastructure, which was built in the 40s and 50s, is falling apart since 1960. It's been on a steady, it's like your old Toyota Celica that you keep trying to maintain, and you really should get a new car. But you know what? You got the Celica. And so what this is that the water industry is more and more spending money on maintenance, and they don't have the infrastructure capital to really make things better. What's happening is all the water treatment is going to the edge, just like cell phones, just like energy, just like PCs to mainframes to PCs. The whole trend is happening in water, but it's invisible because guess what? You're still flushing your toilet and the water goes away. You open your tap, the water comes in. To a consumer, it's not really visible, but businesses are being told, you better give us treated water because we can't handle it. And that is the quiet revolution that businesses are having to deal with, almost on a forced basis.
Yeah. So then how do you come in so what do you do as a business? You're kind of in a way making water better, treating it. So what does that look like? What is the core of your business?
Okay, so let's assume that there's a lot of decentralization going on. And so let's say a brewery needs to double its capacity. Local water district says that can't handle it. Then they build their own. We have modular water systems in a box, patented technology to roll out these systems. Because when you're a business, you don't really want to get into water. You've got your own business, you're making beer, whatever. So you just want, a black box. We deliver those black boxes. It's unique technology. But then we learned at the beginning of COVID, that was not enough because there's another huge piece of the problem, which now has become not just a chronic problem, but a big acute one, which is capital, funding, and also personnel, people, right? Because the water industry already needs 3 million people more this decade to replace what they call the silver tsunami, the people getting old. And the good news, bad news is that 80,000 businesses have gone belly up in the US alone this year. There's a whole crop of entrepreneurs ready to move into water. So combine that with the availability of funding, of technology, and you have a perfect wave, I think.
How has COVID helped your business? Just going backwards a little bit and talking about that, as far as how you needed to educate the consumer, your client, how you needed to provide them different information. How did it change your continuum?
I was just looking at I do a weekly briefing. I was looking at the transcription from 6 February saying, oil is crashing because of an epidemic in Wuhan. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go, right? But what happened was, of course, was that markets, once again, instead of going into we were expecting the recession, but it was going to be gradual. Instead, it was sudden. And we saw right away the same thing would happen as in the last recession, which is lots of money, but hard money. Capital's tough. You have to have high five. You have to be doing well. People who do well do better. People who do badly are right. That's what COVID brought us. And so we realized that we needed to implement what we call water as a career, bring people into the water industry. And the big pilot program we have, which is going fabulously, is a B2C product called Pool Preserver, which essentially recycles all the water in a pool, kind of like a kidney dialysis machine. And it's a thriving business that we are bringing people into with a full career builder, biz opportunity type program. And that's, I think, these people we're not even promoting it properly because we're not ready. And yet we're just getting over the transom, just huge flows of people who are ready, right?
Yeah. So I want to go back and talk about what you said earlier, because you said people aren't thinking about water because water is it's kind of an invisible topic in a way. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times in businesses, things, if they're not sometimes out of sight, out of mind. And water is something that's actually in our sight, but it's kind of like hiding almost sometimes in plain sight. We just kind of, take for granted that it's there and that it does come out of the faucet, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you say how do you as a company market to people to make something like water top of mind without kind of the fear element of it? Sometimes when I see things on, you're talking about Flint, but you see things and you're like, there's all the water you're drinking has all of this in it, and it's like, it does, it looks clear to me. It looks clear to me. So how does a company like you market to your clientele in a way that educates, allows them to make good decisions, but doesn't, infuse fear?
Right. Well, we have a division in Texas that builds, and they are already dealing with tremendous demand for on-site, on-premises water treatment. That's already a fact. It's only invisible to the consumer. To business, industry, agriculture, they already know that they have to build their own. For example, we have this case study on our website of a car dealership in Pennsylvania that decided to relocate to cheap land that was unconnected to sewage, and they put in one of our black water closed loop treatment systems. They didn't have to connect to sewage. They saved millions of dollars, and their land value increased. That's happening constantly, but quiet, right? Mm-hmm. That's one level. Then me at corporate, I'm working on these new programs which have to do with welcoming new people in the workforce through the water as a career model, and also pioneering. This is a fascinating thing. There is now the ability, as these systems become smaller, for ordinary investors to invest in water equipment, much like they invest in oil and gas, real estate, or solar, but now water. It has not happened until now, and we are the pioneers in that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So how does somebody get into water, right? As a business owner, I think one of the things we're seeing with COVID being hit, that we're seeing a lot of new entrepreneurs hit the market, right? People who are either laid off, people who are realizing they're home and they want different type of balance and control of their lives. And they're looking and they're saying, God, I want to go into business for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I always love talking to entrepreneurs and knowing a little bit of their backstory. How did you get into the water business? How did you get into this field? What led you to it? And then I think you work with your brother as well. So, what's it like having a family business?
Well, I was dragged kicking and screaming into water because I was number 2 at a company in malware called Cyber Defender, and they went public on the NASDAQ with my help. And I was foolish enough to think that I should now be a CEO. That nobody should ever do that. Anyway.
Well, let's not say no one. Right. Yeah.
If I'd known what I known then, I was like, no, you know what? I'll stay number 2. It's all good.
Right.
Well, anyway.
Well, you bring up a good point, though. It's like, sometimes you're right. You got to make sure you do your research and that you have the DNA to be that, in any different position. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is my wife knows, and I'm an ambitious bastard. This is how it is. But what I contacted this fund that I'd worked with in tech before, and I said, hey, I think I could be a CEO. And they go, yeah, we think so too. But now we're doing green, not tech, and we think algae's hot. And before I knew it, I was in the algae industry with a young public company pioneering. And believe me, in 2007, 2008, algae was such a who'da thunk that I was on I was on CNN, Fox Business, Stuart Varney called me Algae Man, the whole thing. And it was brilliant. And then the price of oil crashed to $200. And at that point, algae became a science experiment as a biofuel. And many, many companies closed in the sector. We then realized, wait a minute, we can recreate ourselves because, I had a business failure in the 80s, and I learned in retrospect that it did not need to fail. It was all about, I just needed to persist and weather the storm. And with the company, I had this OriginClear, which at the time was called Origin Oil, because it was the original oil. We decided we could pivot. And we managed to pivot our way into water because we had this tech for harvesting algae. Long story short, we found ourselves in an industry that was not so exciting. I remember going to Fast Company in Manhattan a few years back, 3-4 years back, and pitching it. And as I was talking about sewage, her eyes were going up in her head. To her, it was that big installation down on the Hudson River. She didn't want to know.
Yeah.
So the problem really is that water, people think of water as super, super important, but they don't want to know the details. They really don't.
Right.
And I don't blame them, right?
Yeah. So, I don't want to know the details of my phone. I just want to make sure it works. Right. But I want to talk about your failures because I think people can learn a lot from failure. So you have this business in the 80s. You're talking about, persistence would have kind of, been an important key. What's one or two takeaways, lessons of the failures that that in hindsight would have helped or you're helping somebody else today?
Well, at the time, John, I was pioneering one of the new VARs, value-added resellers, that was putting taking businesses off of their old safeguard ledgers, that you had to press hard to push through, onto these AT&T. Remember the old AT&T Unix microcomputers, super micros, and it worked very well. The problem was that what I didn't realize was what's the real money for an IT shop? It's not the initial implementation. It's the fact that you have that customer for 20 years, right? And the life cycle, I gave away the business to my best salesman. He told me years later, guess what? I've made millions from your customers. I'm like, thanks a lot. So the truth was, I go, you know what? I do not want to do yet another installation where I made $3 for $30,000 per top. And what I didn't realize was there was $500,000 total life cycle if I'd only understood. And that was just a failure of persistence. So the thing to do is, when you're discouraged, look at the space you're in. Yeah. Find the long-term life cycle for what you do, because that's going to be the gravy you live on for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said. And let's talk about business partners, because I know you're business partners with your brother. I was business partners with my brother in our internet company. It was great. I loved it. But there's still those family dynamics that happen. And so what's it like being with your brother? And what I really want to know, because I think a lot of companies sometimes get this, don't do this well, is how did you decide what the role and responsibility was of each person? I think sometimes people go into business together and then they don't talk about it, and then it's like, and then it just creates issues. So how did you guys do that?
Well, John, Nicholas really is an amazing inventor. And so what he did was come up with some fantastic technology. Unfortunately, what we learned is that the water industry is antipathetic to technology. They don't like these problems. And so it takes 12 to 15 years for them to accept new technology. I realized then that we had to adopt more of a business approach to changing water versus a tech approach, change the process. adapt to the new decentralization, create careers, etc. And that's when Nicholas really, 3 years back, he went ahead and allied with a different group completely. He went into the Permian, applied some of his tech to sweetening oil wells. He, for a time, he was a licensee of ours, but he's happily inventing. He loves what he does, and ultimately, he and I worked well together. But as a pure tech play, water wasn't working for us, and at the end of the day, he couldn't find a slot for himself that would be long term. So the 8 years he spent with us was fantastic, right? But at the end of the day, he moved on, and with our blessing.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. There's, I think when sometimes there's certain people that aren't a fit for the company, whether it's their choice or somebody else's choice. It's always good to have just kind of a conscious, parting of the ways. And so I love that. I think that's great. And so talk to me about the next 3 years as a business owner, right? So the next 3 years, I think the playbook for everybody has been rewritten as of mid-March of 2020. And so how, as a business owner, are you looking at the next 3 years of your business and saying, okay, here's how we got to retool, here's how we got to re-innovate, here's how we need to be looking forward through the windshield, not the rearview mirror?
That's really good, because rearview mirror is extremely accurate, but of course, you can't drive backward.
Correct. Well, so, you can, but you may not get as far.
Right, it's kind of wiggly. Right. But what I think the most important thing is you've got to have a survey says. And the survey says that we have is that we, at the front end of our business, have a custom shop that builds things on request, right? And what we do out of that is we extract a product. So as an example, this pool preserver product that we have was originally a custom job that we then went, oh, interesting. We turned it into a product and a career builder, and now people can get into the pool preserver business, right? So that's very, very similarly, we have another one which we call Pondster, the Pond Monster, which cleans up manure ponds, like animal farms, etc. And that came out of a custom job that now we're turning into, again, a career builder. So what I think is important is, where do you source your lines of business? They've got to come from somewhere real, a real demand, and you got to have your somehow antenna out, even if you only use, and this is an secret, Google surveys.
Yeah, Google surveys, right? Those really do. They really do. Tell people how to use Google surveys, because I don't think people really know.
Well, the simple thing to do with Google surveys, go ahead, put a survey together, choose your demographic. It's unbelievable the amount of the demographics available, as you know. And now they just run interspersed with YouTube's, and you get your data back, 2-3 days. But, if you're willing to wait that long, you have, and they're free. What the heck, right? So it's a hidden weapon, but that's good, because as a marketer, I want to test taglines, impression testing, blue versus black, all that good stuff. But in terms of learning your business, you need to have a toe in, like, what next Amazon product am I going to carry, right? Yeah. So have that, don't assume you know. That, I think, is the most important lesson right now.
Yeah. All right, that's good. All right, Riggs, you ready? Well, one more question I have, okay. Because it seems like, clean water, like you're talking about, like for Flint, for example, like, and I live in Detroit, and I'm not going to get into Flint right now, but for many, clean water is a luxury. And, so people who have water that, they can't afford services like yours, what do they do?
Yeah, this is a problem, because frankly, I'm not ready to step into the single family home, or even the apartment buildings per se, because it's a miniaturization process, and it's incredibly commoditized. There's big players like Pelican out there already that are doing a good job. So we've kind of not jumped into it. We think it's a future business we'll be in, especially good for career building, again, water installers. I would say, at the very least, get one of those little bin-up pitchers, process your water that way, because it is, if you go to EWG, Environmental Working Group, put in your zip code, you'll be astonished with your water, and you deserve to have clean water. So yeah, I agree 100% that at least we have disinfected water, right? Because 2.6 billion people in the world do not have access to clean water, and that is a bad thing. But at least we're there. Now, do we have fluoride? Do we have toxic metals, whatever? Yes, they won't kill you today, but you should filter your water.
Filter water. Yeah. All right, good. Thanks for that. All right, you ready for the speed round?
Go.
Riggs? All right. Favorite book and why?
You know, I have to say, right now I'm reading an amazing book called The Traitor Baru Cormorant, which is an amazing sci-fi / fantasy about power and how it's destroyed and how people destroy themselves for power. Fascinating book.
It sounds intense. Right now I'm reading 75 Hard. It's a 75-day program by Andy Frisella. It's great.
Well, if you want to know business, then Profit First. I'm reading that as well.
Yeah. Oh, which one? Probability First?
No, Profits First, which is take your profits first.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, good. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
Say again?
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
It said by Saint-Exupéry. He said, "Il n'est qu'un luxe véritable, c'est celui des relations humaines." There's but one true wealth. It is human relations.
I like it. Advice you would give to an entrepreneur who just graduated college?
Please apprentice somewhere. Don't just dive in.
That's good advice. That's good advice. Finish this sentence. This decade will be
the acceleration of every trend known, and a world that we'd better make good now.
I like it. I like it. Tell everybody, Riggs, your ideal client and all the ways to get a hold of you.
Okay, first of all, the best way to reach me is to sign up for my weekly CEO briefing Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's interactive. I bring you up to speed on what's going on, trends, etc. Just go to OriginClear.com and click on the CEO button, sign up. I'd love to have you on the show. And the public stock symbol is OCLN. And really the best way to reach me is, there's a number of ways on the website to do it, but invest@OriginClear.com goes to my assistant. And I, by the way, if you sign up for my newsletter and you reply, it goes into my inbox, and I'd love to hear from you.
Good. Riggs, and just your ideal client.
My ideal client is today a gung-ho entrepreneur who really is eager to get into an interesting business with a lot of value add and has no preconceived notions. We're going to help you get a new career.
How are you going to do that? What does it require of them?
We're building packages, right? You know, there's no secret sauce about BizOp, right?
Yeah.
You know, so we're not reinventing that, but we're putting in. It has not existed in water strategy enough. So, and we'll bring finance. So finance, BizOp package. You, the entrepreneur, let's connect you, give you a job in water. Water needs you, and I believe that many of us need a job today.
Yeah. I love it. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are out there who are looking for just another, a way out, a way to find and build their own business. So I think that's great. One more minute I just want to spend with you, diving a little bit deeper into the person who's just kind of sitting there thinking, I want to get into this a new business. I want to this business maybe sounds right to me. How do they make what's the first step that somebody kind of takes to say, hey, this is something that is kind of in alignment with me?
Like I said, they should go to my briefing, but there's also on our website, go to originclear.com/pool preserver. And if they can't remember that, you just go into our products and see Pool Preserver. There's a form. On that page is all the pro formas for the business, how you make money doing it. What is this? What the heck is this machine, right? And fill out the form, right? And you will hear from my COO. He's personally handling this program. It's a very high priority for us. And we'd love to have great people in water. This is a $1 trillion industry that's only treating 1/5 of the water in the world. It needs to be a $5 trillion industry. Let's do it together.
Yeah, good. I love it. Riggs, I love talking to people who are making a difference, and thanks for, having a platform for other entrepreneurs to be entrepreneurs. Thanks for everything you shared today and your wisdom. Any closing thoughts?
Well, John, first of all, I love the fact you're doing this. I noticed that every podcast that I do, I learn more myself because of the sharp questions. So thank you.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is that we're inventing this new world right now by the day. And if you feel that you are kind of stuck at home and you go, oh shoot, I'm apathetic, just remember, it's the best of times, the worst of times, right? So grab the best, just do it, and that's.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I started this company. This was a little over 5 years ago. I had met with this attorney, which was 6 years prior. Or the year before I started this company, because I went in-house to help restructure a business. And he said to me, if you do nothing, you'll regret it. And that was great advice. And I think that's great advice too. People can do a side hustle. They can, slowly get into things. But I think if you fast forward and look 20 years ahead and look back, you don't want to look back with regrets.
Yeah, and I think to complement that, I would say, bite off too much. Go ahead. What the heck, right? The worst thing you could do is fail, but you won't, because biting off too much makes you rise to the occasion. You'll become a better person.
Yeah, right. And you can't vacation. You can't go out to dinner. You can right now as we record. It, right. What is the date today? August. I don't even know what the date is. August 17th. Right. You're not going out to dinner that often. You're not going on vacation, most likely. You're not. I mean, there's a lot of things. So you have more time. So take advantage of it.
Sure.
All right, Riggs, I appreciate your time. All the best to you and your business and your family. Stay safe. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. And I appreciate you taking time to be on the show.
John, peace on to you, and continue the great work with the podcast. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Riggs.